What's going on, guys? This is Rob. If you guys enjoy my content, make sure you hit the subscribe button and make sure you hit that little bell so you never miss out on my sexy voice. Okay, so you guys knew it was only ever a matter of time. You knew it was a matter of time before this came out. Too powerful for Marvel movies, Franklin Richards. Now, Franklin Richards is, God, that kid is broken. I mean, he is so astronomically broken. It's not even funny. I mean, it's crazy. So for those of you guys who don't know, Franklin Richards is the son of Reed Richards, Mr. Fantastic, and Susan Storm, the Invisible Woman of the Fantastic Four. And his powers are off the charts. Now, he has a weird history there, right? Like, you go back to Fantastic Four annual number 6 or whichever one it is, and Franklin Richards makes his debut. And the idea behind this was that Franklin Richards was basically siphoning off the life energy of Susan Storm while he was in the womb. And so it took Johnny Storm and it took Ben Grimm the Thing and it took Reed Richards going to the negative zone and basically capturing the cosmic control rod, which is the negative zones. We don't really need to understand a whole lot about it. It's the negative zone's version of like the power Galactus has, like the power cosmic. And it was wielded by a guy named Annihilus. And that was the first time Annihilus learned about the Fantastic Four, which ultimately led to the events of Annihilation, when Annihilus invaded the main Marvel universe with an army of like billions of bugs and almost destroyed the entirety of the universe. It took Galactus just like annihilating 2/3 of the Annihilation wave and just being like, you're done, before Annihilus and then basically retreated. But yeah, no, okay, so for Franklin, once Ben and Johnny and Reed came back with the cosmic control rod, they basically used that to kind of like balance the energy of Franklin, and then Susan gave birth to her son naturally. Now, for the longest time, Marvel attributed the powers of Franklin Richards to the cosmic control rod, basically saying he was like a second Galactus. The issue with this is that, well, not really an issue with it. It was really just kind of a cut change. It was just a total switch. And this came out of the 198 files. And this was basically a story. Well, not really a story. It was kind of a story. Basically what happened is the Scarlet Witch went crazy. She distorted reality. She set everything back. And when she did, she said no more mutants. And so there were only like 198 mutants left. But what they did is they created a one-shot called, no, I'm sorry, maybe it was a mini-series. It was called the 198 files. And it basically listed like the most prominent of the various mutants. And it ascribed Franklin Richards to being a mutant. It assigned him to the mutant population and said, well, he was Omega level. And so it was the first time that really happened. And that kind of shifted him away from having his powers tied in the cosmic control rod and said he's actually a mutant. Now, for the most part, Marvel kind of toyed with that a little bit, you know, in the in-between years, from like when Franklin first showed up all the way to the 198 in 2005, whenever that story came out. The most notable was Days of Future Past. And Days of Future Past, as most people know, was a story where the Sentinels took over the Earth, took over North America. And it ended with like basically a nuclear strike from like the world's superpowers onto the US, wiping out the Sentinels. But during that story, Franklin was captured and he had a mutant containment device that was strapped around his neck to keep his powers shut down. And so at that point, the only powers he really had was like telepathy and telekinesis, and that was really it. So it gets kind of finicky when you get into that sort of thing. That was one of the things about Claremont's X-Men, is it was really more people borrowing stuff from Claremont's X-Men than Claremont borrowing stuff from other people, because it was one of those things where what he was doing was working so well, he didn't have to borrow anything from anybody else. But the fact remains here, for Franklin as a kid, his powers were pretty basic. Like they were pretty simple. And what I mean by that is he would have like these small little moments in time. The biggest thing that came out during the early days of his character was in Fantastic Four number 245. Well, Fantastic Four number 245, and then Fantastic Force number 10 from 1995. But in issue number 245 of Fantastic Four, basically the way this played out is Franklin's powers, they were never really kept in check, because there was never really any need to worry about the extreme nature of his powers, because they never really flared up or manifested. But in that story, he's trying to solve a puzzle, and he's frustrated by the fact that he can't solve the puzzle because he's like a little kid. And there's this commercial that comes on in the background on the TV, and it says, why don't you just grow up? And so in his frustration, his powers flared up. And when they did, he aged himself into an adult, but didn't know who he was. And so, you know, Susan Storm comes back home, but like the whole place is in shambles, right? Like somebody had gone through and it looked like they had just like ransacked the place and like torn everything up. And she ends up finding this guy who basically looks like a blonde Jesus. If Jesus was blonde, that's what he looks like. The character was called Avatar. And so as the story progresses, you actually end up realizing it's Franklin Richards who aged himself up. And so when everything set back to normal, Reed Richards put mental blocks in place so Franklin's powers would never manifest. And occasionally they did. Occasionally they would flare up. One of the most notable instances after that, again, you know, going into Fantastic Force number 10, he basically started spawning like all these different versions of himself. And like it turned into this crazy situation. But the most notable one really went into, or really, there were two more notable events. The first one was the Onslaught saga and the aftermath, so like Heroes Reborn. And then the second one was the Abraxas saga. And the Abraxas saga was like 2001. It was in the early 2000s, 2001, 2002, 2003. But Onslaught was in the mid-1990s. And the way this played out was you basically had the mental powers of Xavier and his frustration with humanity's refusal to accept mutants that basically merged with Magneto's hatred for humanity, and then it just turned into like this psychic entity. And so during that story, Franklin Richards was absorbed by Onslaught, and then of course it took Apocalypse and Cable traveling into the body, more or less, into like the form of Onslaught, and then trying to retrieve Franklin, only for us to find out that Apocalypse went in because he saw Franklin as a new host. And so he wanted to take over the body of Franklin Richards, and then Cable was going to try to stop him. Susan Storm was apparently followed him. She was invisible the whole time. She followed him and then got Franklin out of there before Apocalypse could do anything. And then that leads into like all the superheroes, like Jean Grey suppressing the Bruce Banner persona. The Incredible Hulk freaks out, punches a hole through Onslaught, and like all the characters that weren't selling jumped into Onslaught. And so they were all basically dead. So like Thor, a lot of the Avengers, the Fantastic Four, basically everybody but the X-Men, essentially, and like Spider-Man. And so like all the characters just that were crappy and weren't selling, they all basically jumped into Onslaught, and they were reborn in the Heroes Reborn universe. Well, what you ended up finding out is Franklin missed his family so much and missed the superheroes around him so much that what he did is he basically created a pocket universe in the form of like this blue ball that he would carry around. And inside that universe was Heroes Reborn. So he basically resurrected them all and then put them in a different universe. And so at the end of that story, he's met by a celestial, and she basically says like, you have to set everything back. You have to choose one Earth or the other. You can't have both. And so Franklin chose to basically take all the characters from the Heroes Reborn, bring them back into the main Marvel universe, and then destroy the Heroes Reborn universe. It was crazy. From there, you go into the Abraxas saga. And Abraxas was the answer to the question, what would happen if Galactus died? And so when Galactus in the main Marvel universe dies, you end up finding out he's the gatekeeper for the representation of the multiverse's destruction, which came in the form of Abraxas. And Abraxas literally just started like hopping and skipping through every single universe and killing every version of Galactus he found. And so from there, like, it ended up taking Franklin Richards. He resurrected Galactus from the dead, and then Galactus turned the ultimate nullifier on Abraxas. And the ultimate nullifier was this device that if a person was powerful enough, or if they had enough like focus, they could destroy anything in existence. And so the Franklin had like his kid version had like these little moments where he would pop up and he would have like these powers that would just kind of occasionally appear and do a thing, and then that would really be it. Now that goes into Jonathan Hickman's run on the Fantastic Four. So whenever you see people talk about can Franklin beat such and such, then that's basically, they're talking about the version of Franklin Richards from like Hickman's Fantastic Four. So the way this unfolded is the Fantastic Four, and I've told the story a million times, and I'll tell it a million more times. The way this whole thing happened is you had the Fantastic Four who was sitting at home doing whatever they were doing, and the alarms and everything start buzzing, and it's like, what in the hell is going on? And like there's just like this grizzled old guy that appears in the house, and like, oh my god, he's going for the children. It's like, dude, okay, some guy with a man bun shows up in our house, and he's got like a beard. He looks like a vagrant. All right, and like he shows up in our house, and he goes to the kid's room. This cannot be anything but bad. And so like the guy puts up a force field that none of the Fantastic Four can get through. And like Susan Storm's like the queen of force fields, right? She's like the first lady of Marvel. So it's like, if anybody can get to this force field, you can, Susan. And she's like, I'd love to, but I can't. And so like, so they're just kind of stuck behind there. And so like Franklin ends up wandering out into the hallway, trying to figure out what's going on. The adult version like picks him up, whispers something in his ear, and then drops him down, and Franklin passes out. And so then he goes into Valeria's room, says something to her, and then leaves. And then everything goes back to normal. Well, what you end up finding out in backup issues for Future Foundation, I think it was the backup issues in that one, is that this was the adult Franklin Richards from the future. And in the future, Reed Richards was going to die. And so the adult Franklin was trying to find a way to keep his father alive, and knew that waking up the powers of his younger self was the only way to do it. So that's why he went back to the past, woke up the powers of his younger self, and when little kid Franklin's powers wake up, he basically starts creating universes in his bedroom, like whole universes under the blanket in his bedroom. Most kids are sitting under the blanket hiding from monsters. Franklin's creating universes. So the adult version of Franklin starts coming back to the past, like visiting into the past, and teaching his younger self how to use his powers. And that's when you really get like this full-on display of what Franklin can do, in the sense that what they do is they basically create like this whole universe. It's just totally empty space, and young Franklin starts going through and just creating things, creating like solar systems and life and planets and stars. He basically becomes God, and just like starts creating all these different things, which is how it is that Franklin was able to like assemble universes and throw them out there at the end of Secret Wars. I don't know how many of you guys knew about that, but that explains, that's why you can just read Jonathan Hickman's runs in its entirety, like alone. You literally start from Fantastic Four Dark Reign, you run all the way up to when he finishes Fantastic Four Future Foundation, then you stop, then you jump into Avengers and New Avengers, and it's all just one seamless story. But anyway, so younger Franklin learning how to use his powers, the whole basis behind this was, it goes into this great big huge fight at the end. Go watch my videos on Hickman's Fantastic Four if you want to see the whole thing. But it goes to this great big huge fight between Galactus and the Celestials from a different universe. Now, these alternate reality Celestials called the Mad Celestials destroyed Galactus. And so then like Franklin and Valeria come from the future, and you end up finding out that what had happened was when the older Franklin was teaching his younger self how to use his powers, it was so that he could basically take all the energy he had, all his power that he'd been gaining over the years, and then consolidate it all down, save it, and then give it to his older self. And so adult Franklin's running around with like twice his normal power level, and he's doing insane things. Like he destroys a Celestial in one punch, and it's just like, damn, dude, you went straight up Rocky Balboa. He resurrects Galactus again. Dude, it's like the most badass scene. Galactus is dead, and like as soon as he gets the powers from his younger self, he's like, rise, and like raises Galactus. He's like, to me, my Galactus, and like resurrects Galactus from the dead, and it's just like, holy shit, man, it's one of the coolest things. And it was hilarious too, because there's one point where the Mad Celestials believe they defeated Franklin Richards. And so like when they analyze him, it's just like, they're like, he's a universal constant, like he's beyond Omega level. And Franklin's like, yeah, man, like you're kind of screwed. And it's kind of funny because like there's comments, you know, there's like commentating and everything. To steal from El Presador for a second, it's like, dude, Mad Celestials, man, you didn't beat him. You just pissed him off, and now you because now like he's gonna destroy all you guys. Like that's exactly how it goes. Like Franklin resurrects Galactus from the dead, and between the two of them, like he starts controlling Galactus like a puppet. Like he's controlling Galactus after resurrecting him from the dead, and like they just start like just annihilate these Mad Celestials, and the fight's over. And like it's maybe like a minute and a half long, and like these Mad Celestials are totally obliterated. Dude, Franklin's so powerful. I mean, the power he has is absolutely insane. I mean, like I said, it's funny little things though. Like during Fantastic Four Dark Reign, when Norman Osborn, the Green Goblin, became like the new director of S.H.I.E.L.D., he storms the Baxter building, and Franklin's standing there with like a toy gun, and he's like, you need to leave. And Norman's like, you can't tell me what to do. And Franklin goes to pull the trigger on the toy gun and shoots him with a real bullet. And it's like, damn, it's just stuff like that. Now, for the MCU, you could never have Franklin Richards in it. You could, but the only role he'd be able to play is just the son of Reed. That's the only, like, he'd just be a kid who's there. Because if you did that, you'd run into the exact same problem you have in Marvel Comics, where everybody starts asking the question, well, why doesn't Franklin just fix everything? Now, here's a huge distinction to also pick up too. So in Marvel Comics, when it comes to like reality warpers, it's not just one type, right? Like you have different types of people on that level, but they're split into two camps. You've got reality warpers, and then you've got matter manipulators, and they're two distinctly different things, but their powers are also really similar. So if I sat you down and I said, okay, like here's some clay, go ahead and make a thing out of it. If you said, well, I want to make a horse, and you made a horse out of that clay, or you say, I want to make a cow, and you made a cow out of that clay, you're a matter manipulator in Marvel Comics. You know, I mean, relatively speaking, but you guys understand the principle. You're taking what you already have and you're turning it into something else. People like Matthew Malloy, like Scarlet Witch when she had the power of Chthon, classic Doctor Strange, Franklin Richards. With that level of power, a reality manipulator would be like if I put you in the same scenario with that clay and you said, well, I need more, so you just created it out of thin air. That's what reality warpers do. They control the force, like they literally manipulate reality in such a way that they can do anything they want. They can create something out of nothing. They can break the laws of physics, you know, because laws of physics say that matter can't be created or destroyed. Like if you die, your atoms go somewhere. The people who are reality warpers can defy all that. That's why the Infinity Gauntlet and the Cosmic Cube are so powerful, because they're not bound by the laws of physics. They can do anything they want. And so that's what Franklin Richards does. Franklin Richards is not a matter manipulator. He's not constrained by the fundamental forces or the form and function of a universe. He can do anything he wants. He can change the universe if his powers got advanced enough, if he knew how to harness them well enough. I mean, he's done stuff like that. Like he created a box out of thin air that would basically keep the voice of Black Bolt from like destroying him. Like, I mean, it's just little things like that. If you guys don't know what that means, don't worry about it. Black Bolt's part of the Inhumans, and the Inhumans suck. So it's just small little things like that. But Franklin is crazy powerful, I mean, in terms of his abilities. But you couldn't have him in the MCU, because literally people would just ask the question, why doesn't Franklin just fix everything? Why doesn't he just like snap his fingers and fix everything? Why doesn't he just, you know, Accio everything being corrected, you know, and just, you know, fix it that way, you know, just like transfigure the universe and just make Harry Potter real, which I think would be awesome if like Franklin Richards was in the MCU and he was watching the Harry Potter movies and he's like, I want that to be real, and just like manifest Hogwarts out in like England or Scotland or wherever in the hell it is out there, just like makes it, and like that would be amazing, you know. And like I would even throw a little interview in there with J.K. Rowling. He's like, how does it feel to know that like your stories have come to life? It's like, I mean, I guess it's cool. Sorry, like I'm too busy arguing stupid things on Twitter. Like, I mean, I don't know. Like I have no idea what would happen. So this Franklin Richards is just too powerful for the Marvel Cinematic Universe. He's just way too OP. There's no way to make him work. There's no conceivable way to make it work because it's just an insane level of power. You'd have to nerf him down. Now they could do things like give him telepathy and telekinesis and just say he has like really high levels of telepathy and telekinesis. He's on par with like Jean Grey as the Phoenix or something along those lines. But Franklin's more powerful than that. So the people who are fans of Franklin will probably get kind of angry about it. You know, they probably feel a little bit betrayed. But I mean, I wouldn't really care. I just want to see Franklin in the MCU. But it gets kind of bonkers. I don't know any real feasible way because even Thanos with the Infinity Gauntlet, it's like a fraction of the power he has in Marvel Comics. Like half those fights in Infinity War should have been like 5 seconds long. Like they never should have been that long. Thanos should have just shown up. Like that 5 seconds, 3 of those are Thanos like showing up and then people going to attack him and he's just like, nope. And then that's it. And then they're done. They could turn to jello or just get sent back in time by like 60 million years. But then again, it would have been like the most boring movie ever, right? Like, I mean, technically speaking, the entire plot to Infinity War could have been done in like half an hour in like one Avengers movie. Like you could have done all that. Thanos just like shows up. I mean, and honestly, I think that probably would have been better if they'd have done like the entire plot to Infinity War. If they had just condensed it all down to half an hour and just said, yep, that's how powerful Thanos is. Like he just walked into Earth, just walked in to the home of the Avengers. They're like, man, you got to get out of here, Thanos. And they're fighting. And he's just like lambs to the slaughter, you know, and just taking them out, you know, like just absolutely wrecking them. Just go all Frieza, just be like, I'm only using 1% of my power. Yeah, that'd be kind of cool to see, to be honest. I think it'd be kind of awesome. Anyway, we rambled on long enough. If you are new here to Comics Explained, make sure you guys hit the sub button to become part of the Rob Corps. If you guys enjoyed this video, make sure you drop a like. And yeah, I will catch you all later. Peace.